Hello, I'm Dr. Scott Watier.
And I'm Tommy Welling, and you're listening to the Fasting for Life podcast.
This podcast is about using fasting as a tool to regain your health, achieve ultimate wellness, and live the life you truly deserve.
Each episode is a short conversation on a single topic with immediate actionable steps. We cover everything from fat loss and health and wellness to the science of lifestyle design.
We started Fasting for Life because of how fasting has transformed our lives, and we hope to share the tools that we have learned along the way. Hey everyone, welcome to the Fasting for Life podcast. My name is Dr. Scott Watier, and I'm here, as always, with my good friend and colleague, Tommy Welling. Good afternoon to you, sir.
Hey, Scott, how are you?
Great, my friend. Happy New Year once again. It is 2025, staying alive. I can't believe that I graduated from high school in 1999. And when I think 30 years ago, I think 1970s. I don't think...
Oh, man, yeah.
Late 90s, early 2000s.
You don't think Y2K? Yeah.
No, I don't, sir.
Okay.
But regardless of my woe is me aging, I'm excited after the December and the last challenge and the last few episodes. I'm excited to start with the conversation that we're going to have today around fasting and consistency and exercise, and how those two things are the two main levers that we're going to be able to use to build health and make 2025 the best year yet. So if you are new, that's a big promise, I know. If you are new to the podcast, welcome in. Head back to episode 1. Give it a listen if you want to know more about Tommy, more about me, our journeys, how fasting transformed our lives. We're happy to have you with us. If you are coming in and you are new, or you're an OG, shout out to the OGs of the Fasting
Shout out
for Life podcast world. Thank you for coming back. Thank you for being on this health and weight loss and fasting journey with us. If you're looking for a kick in the backside to start 2025, we are going to have a fun conversation today. So I want to welcome all of you in. And if we go back, which... if you're a faster, right, you identify as a faster, it's part of your lifestyle. It's now, you're the crazy one in your family, or maybe they've accepted you for who you are in terms of your fasting.
Oh, and they're not eating. Don't worry about them.
Right? Don't worry about Sue. She'll be fine, right? So whatever it is, if we go back in the time machine, or if you're new and you still struggle with this on-off diet mentality, 2025, the new year, is all about, and it's interesting if you look at the research, New Year's resolutions and how awful they are and how much they don't work.
Yeah.
But new year, new you, new year, new me, right? And you're going to set this intention. You're going to come out guns blazing in 2025, setting off fireworks. All right, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to fast 48 hours nonstop until I reach my goal. I'm going to work out 5 days a week after the gym. I'm going to, AKA, eat less, move more, so I can burn more calories to lose weight. Well, we're going to pull you out of the matrix today because you need to take the good pill. I never remember if it's the red one or the blue one.
It's a red one.
Take the red pill. And we want to have a conversation around fasting and fitness. There's a misconception that you can eat less and move more and get long-term results. There's a sustainability conversation around that. So we want to look at fasting. Right? We talk about fasting all the time, consistency in your fasting, but how can we leverage the different types of exercise to enhance our fasting efforts? And that's really what we want to focus on today.
Yeah. So we have multiple levers that we can pull. And when we combine these things, then that means we can kind of continue to standardize the process, but we can also increase the efficiency of it as well, because it's kind of like, going back to 20, 30 years ago when I kind of started my own fat loss journey, exercise was intricately like intertwined with that too. But up to the point where it felt like if I was exercising consistently, then I made better food choices and vice versa. but once one stopped, the other one kind of fell with it. So they were linked up together, but also at the same time, I didn't understand how to actually leverage exercise in a way that was actually meaningful. All I was thinking was, how many calories am I burning while I'm exercising? Right. Which is like just completely
Futile.
aimed in the wrong direction. It's aimed in the wrong direction for sure.
Yeah. So we want to focus on this time of year for a reason, because these two things are conjoined, right?
Yeah.
You can't really have long-term success in terms of health and well-being if you're not doing these two things, right? In our world, it's using fasting as a tool to regain confidence around foods, eat the foods you love, get sustainable results, get the weight off, be fit and fabulous, and look good naked, whatever the motivating factor is, right? But you want to be healthy. You want a long life. You don't want disease. You don't want chronic lifestyle issues. You want to live vibrantly, right? Well, you need exercise too. So fasting and fitness is the theme for this kickoff 2025 conversation. So exercise improves all the markers of metabolic health: triglycerides, HDL, waist circumference, blood pressure, and fasting blood glucose. All types of exercise can improve metabolic health, but certain types of exercise, ones that you like and or don't like, but see the benefit from, if we're going to explain some of these to you today. My wife loves all exercise. I have done all types of exercise, from powerlifting to virtual rowing teams to CrossFit to F45 to boxing to kettlebells, you name it, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Some of it I like, some of it I hate. Running, not a runner, don't want to run. Ran a half marathon once, never do it again. Okay.
Yeah.
I actually didn't run the race. I just did the taper run before. And then it said, okay, I ran 10 miles once in my life. I'm never doing that again. Okay. Not a runner, but all types of exercise will improve your metabolic health. But what are the unique benefits of each that are going to fit? Because our thing is science of lifestyle design. What fasts fit your lifestyle? What's sustainable? What foods do you like to eat? Right? Outside of highly refined, processed, sugar-laden, genetic, modified, lab-modified things that make it craveable or palatable, right? Outside of that category of ultra-processed foods, you got to eat what you like, or it's not going to last, right? So same thing with fasting. You know, what are the unique benefits? And then how exercise changes your body composition. And for us, it reduces visceral fat. That's the bad one, the one in between the organs and the belly area, right? And increasing muscle mass. Those both increase insulin sensitivity and sustainability. And how moderate exercise, like simple things like walking, which we'll go into zone 2 here in a minute, are also going to give you changes or sustainable changes in those metabolic benefits, while mobility exercises and getting moving, like literally just getting moving, is going to help counteract the negative impacts of prolonged sitting on your joint health and overall function. If you can move, you're gonna be way ahead on your health and metabolic journey. I just remember my grandparents, once my grandma stopped driving, once my grandpa stopped going for his walks, and he stopped moving, his health just went in the gutter. So I got a walking pad. I've got a green area out here. Some days I don't go do it. It's too damn cold. Okay. Here in Houston, I didn't move far enough south. All right. From New England, keep the snow. But there's a walking pad. Like, you got to get moving. So exercise has all of these benefits, but what are the unique benefits and personalization to you? Just like we apply with a fasting lifestyle, how do we do this with exercise?
Well, so I think a good place to start is taking a look at what you're able to do or what you have been doing now, because through all the techniques and all the specifics that we'll talk about, one important point would be to get a little closer to doing a little more as soon as possible, like taking a new action as quickly as possible, not waiting, and also not saying to yourself, I'm going to start moving when I lose X amount of pounds. Because we hear that a lot, and like that's a tempting kind of thought process, but essentially it's not a very helpful one at all. And so actually saying, you know what, let me move 1% more today than I did yesterday, or 10% more than I did yesterday. That's actually going to accelerate the fat loss process for a few different reasons that we'll get into, but it's also going to help create some habits that are going to serve you as the scale is moving down, if that's what your goal is. And so it's really cool because every bit of muscular activity and muscle activation that we get actually has an improving effect on our metabolic rate, on our fat burning efficiency. So it actually helps the process, get going a lot faster. And so that's a really cool thing to remember rather than kind of putting it off. And that's especially true if you don't feel like you're very mobile right now, because if the case is that you have extra fat stores that you want to burn through and that's keeping you from being as mobile as you want to be, then getting those fat stores, burning through them and shrinking those fat cells as quickly as possible really is the goal.
So we talked a lot about in December, some optimization, some blood work numbers, some blood sugar conversation. Last week, we talked about the 4 core things, right, for long-term sustainability, right? Those core principles of 2024 that we talk about all the time in and out of research articles and lifestyle application and all this stuff, right? And coaching and whatnot. And then there were 10 key components, right? The 80-20 rule and sleep optimization and hydration protocols and all this stuff, right? But when we come to it, fasting and fitness, right? Fasting and movement, 2 of the biggest levers that you can absolutely pull. So why does it matter in terms of the metabolic health? We won't go into a deep dive into each of these markers, but this is the thing. These different types of exercise are going to have different metabolic shifts that you can combine with your fasting to get incredible sustainable results, right? So we talked about triglycerides real quick. Exercise studies show that people who have more active have lower triglyceride levels. Resistance training has been shown to lower these levels, as well as true high intensity exercise more than your low and slow moderate intensity exercise. So that's triglycerides. We have to have a mental shift here in how we work out. HDL. Exercise improves the amount of HDL in the blood, both long and short term, right? And exercise makes HDL, the good cholesterol, more efficient. Waist circumference. What's the impact from exercise on waist circumference? Well, losing weight reduces waist circumference. But if you are in an energy restricted, so a fasting state in a caloric restriction, right? Greater reductions in waist circumference in those who lost weight with just lifestyle changes or food changes or fasting.
Nice. And remember that waist circumference is tied to your visceral fat, the dangerous fat in between your organs. So that being a target of your progress is really, really impactful.
Yeah. Blood pressure, one of the other 5 major lab metrics or metrics for metabolic syndrome, right? Exercise lowers both blood pressure numbers, systolic and diastolic. 27 studies found that regular, medium, high intensity aerobic exercise reduced blood pressure. Bingo, check the box, right? But what type of exercise? Fasting blood sugar, the last metric of metabolic syndrome. Exercise, we know. Postprandial walks.
Oh, yeah.
Right? We've done tons of episodes on these. Better glucose control. And we know that we did a whole episode on this in December, episode 261 on Christmas Eve, the blood sugar conversation. We got a resource for it. Right? Why does it matter? So exercise has all of these magically important things when it comes to metabolic health that we can do. So Tommy, there's 5 different workouts that give us different results. Let's just go through them.
And I wanted to mention a quick thing too, which was on my blood sugar. You just mentioned postprandial walks.
Right? Yeah, that's right.
So,
I forgot you wanted to share the story. This literally, when was this?
This was last night.
Yeah, the night before we're recording this podcast.
Yeah. So I'm wearing a continuous glucose monitor, and so I had basically a keto dinner. It was almost a carnivore dinner. Had some vegetables in there too. So it was very, very low on the carbohydrates. What carbohydrates I did have were natural and vegetable based. And but so I was watching my blood sugar, and I was curious, to see how much it was going to move. And so it ended up moving about 25, maybe 28 points up. And so I started off dinner around 90, ended up, I think it was like about 118 was like around the peak. And that's when I grabbed the dogs, which I would normally take them out later on in the night. But so I grabbed them, and I decided, okay, let me put on my weight vest, which is 65 pounds. And And so I went on a walk with him, and I was kind of shooting for around the 20-minute mark, and I was watching to see, you know, what happened. And then it took about 30 minutes for it to come down to right at my pre-meal level. And I figured it would probably try to come back up again. And it ultimately did. But that next time that it came back up, it didn't go. It went about a little over half as far that next time. And then it quickly came down again. That took another like 20, 30 minutes or so. But that was during a relatively inactive time, like later on in the evening. So it was something visually that I could set a goal to, but then also I know that it probably would have kept going past that like 28-point climb. And then it would have taken much longer to come down, which is that area under the curve. And the important thing there is the longer it stays up, then the more insulin is going to have to chase behind that. And then especially getting into the twilight hours when you're trying to transition into sleep time, that's a problem. I don't want blood sugar elevated and I don't want insulin elevated as I'm trying to, transition into sleep. So the visuals can be really, really helpful there too.
And what was the main motivating factor for that decision that you made?
I assumed that the area under the curve was going to be growing after dinner. It was so I ate between about 6:30 and 7 p.m. I would have liked that to be about an hour earlier because I know I'm going to need more time, like going into my sleep cycle. But it just worked out that way. So I wanted to put a control point, a control lever on it, and so that's why I kind of shifted everything around, because I could have waited to take that same walk and it would have been beneficial too. But while that insulin response was kind of still being calibrated and the blood sugar was still on the rise, it hadn't peaked yet. That can be a more impactful time, kind of getting in front of it, Yeah,
it makes sense. And, there's a couple of rules out there. There's like a 10, 8, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 rule, right? Mm-hmm. There's these different things for sleep optimization. I've tried them all. Yeah. Now I'm into, blocking all the blue light with my lenses. I got the red lenses at night. Yeah. But the rule for better sleep is unplug from work 4 hours for me, or earlier if preferable. Yeah. Stop eating 3 hours before bed, right? Minimally.
Yeah. At least for me.
I like to stop drinking my liquids a couple hours before bed. So I like to hydrate at the beginning of the day or post exercise.
Yep.
Pre and post exercise. And then no electronics. So no screens 1 hour before bed. So it's the 4, 3, 2, 1 rule, right?
Okay.
So like what you just talked about was this. I want to control this because I know I ate a little bit later than I normally do. So we're going to talk about the different workout for different results. So the post-meal walk, we talk a lot about this, the post-prandial walk, the post-Thanksgiving dinner walk, the post-lifestyle event, special occasion walk, right?
Sure, yeah.
But a post-meal walk does exactly what you said. It blunts the glucose spikes, especially after having higher carb or alcohol with your meals. Mm-hmm. So just 20 to 30 minutes of walking. Or we did an episode specifically on this where it was you broke that up into small, little, shorter walks will 100% lower glucose and insulin levels up to 30 to 40%.
Yep. Yeah, so span them out throughout the day.
Some of you are going, but that doesn't count as exercise. Hell yeah, it does.
Right.
That's called low intense, steady state, LISS exercise. It is one of the fasting, weight loss, body composition, health
superpowers,
hacks, optimizers, superpowers, right? It's like magical pixie dust, right? Mm-hmm. So the post-meal walk, that's number one. So remember we talked about the metabolic metrics, right? Triglycerides, HDL, blood pressure, insulin, right? So blood sugar. This is one for a post-meal walk. You're going to have a direct response or improvement in your blood sugar. The second category, Tommy, is going to be what we call medium intensity or zone 2 training. This is something that I struggled with wanting to do.
Okay, why is that?
Right? Yeah. Because this means me on the Peloton or me on the rowing machine, and it's just a slog.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, with a ruck, like to your point, with a ruck, I can get my heart rate up into zone 2 and still accomplish a similar goal, right? But the Peloton challenges, I've been converted by my wife because I actually do enjoy it. I hate to love it, love to hate it.
Yeah.
But it's an incredibly effective approach, this zone 2, for building endurance, improving health, optimizing performance, right? Because it's based on your heart rate range. And if you wear a wearable, like we have Whoops, we're a Whoop family, we're a Whoop company here at Fasting for Life.
Yep, Whoops are great. I just hit my Whoop, my 1 year anniversary, and I know that some of my decisions, big decisions, needle movers over the last year were from that feedback. So yeah.
It's powerful. I have a love-hate with Whoop too. Okay. Heart rate variability, working on it. Sleep, performance, working on it, right? So here's the benefits of zone 2 training. Improved aerobic endurance, enhanced fat metabolism, reduce risk of injury, right? Because it's lower intensity, boosted cardiovascular health, and oxygen utilization. It's great for a recovery day. If you're tired and worn out, you don't need to go bust your butt at the gym. Go for a walk and get your heart rate up. Hell, I even can sit in the sauna on some days. I wait for me to get into this range.
Yeah.
Before I joke and say the brisket's done. It's usually between that 20 to 25 minute mark for me, right? So, and this is great for preparation for performance or high intensity training. So when we look at medium intensity zone 2 cardio or zone 2 workouts, it's going to be different for any one of you, depending on your starting point. And Tommy, you said earlier, where you're at on your fitness journey.
Yeah.
But this enables longer workouts, improving aerobic fitness, glucose processing, and insulin sensitivity at the cellular level, right? With the GLUT4 receptors, and taking that energy out of your liver and out of your bloodstream and putting it into the cell and increasing your body's ability to process glucose and energy more readily and increase that insulin sensitivity, or in other words, insulin effectiveness. So 60 minutes or just 60 minutes can increase glucose uptake from 67 to 97%.
Wow.
Hey, GLP-1, we got you.
You can leverage this exercise to do incredible physiological tasks.
Right.
And so this is that spot where it's not too easy, not too hard. You know, think of that spot where you can kind of just barely hold like a reasonable conversation. And that's like kind of the amount of effort that you're looking for here, like a brisk walk or a light jog. And I think that's good to kind of calibrate, because that might be something to work towards, or that might be something to almost back off what you're doing right now. So you can leverage this. You can leverage some of the higher intensity stuff too, but getting more minutes of this, that zone 2, that kind of sweet spot, is really, really powerful.
What I love about these first two as well, the post-meal walks and the medium intensity zone 2 cardio, or however you get your heart rate into that category, which by the way is just 220 minus your age.
Okay.
Times 0.6 or 0.65 to 0.7 or 0.75. So it's a simple calculation. That's going to give you a range from 60 to 65% to 70 to 75%. Now, if you have a wearable, it's going to do it for you.
Yeah.
Right? If you put your information in. But that's a simple equation to get where you're at. So the cool thing about post-meal walks and medium intensity or zone 2 training or zone 2 workouts or zone 2 rucking or zone 2 cardio, whatever it is for you, is that when you look at this goes really well with a fasting lifestyle. Yeah. Because it doesn't make you ravenous. It doesn't have to be like there's this fasted versus fed, which we're going to talk about fasted exercise as number 5 here in a minute. But it really just is like things you can do regardless of where you are in a fast. It just simplifies the exercise component, the fitness component, right, of your health and weight loss journey.
Yeah, you can even do this with a full belly. Like you could do this like I did after my meal.
Post-meal.
Yeah. Now, once you start getting into zone 3, which I did because my pack was 65 pounds, and I haven't done it very much over the last. How much weight
have you lost total now? 80, 70?
Yeah, 75, somewhere around in there.
So almost all of the weight loss that you lost in a pack.
Yeah, and it's interesting
like
to put it back
carrying my
on.
daughter. I can't I can't imagine. That's I'm
pretty
only
to
at
put it
30
back on.
pounds. So you're now. Well, damn it, I didn't know that.
But yeah, but who's
now
counting?
I have to go buy another vest. Now I'm pissed. All right, I gotta catch up to you, man. Who knew?
Yeah, we'll put it on a Whoop contest. So I started to get into zone 3, and then that, especially with a full belly, that was less comfortable, obviously, but definitely doable. But like staying in that zone 2 is like that spot where you could probably do 20, 30, maybe 60 minutes, and you could continue to do that with very little discomfort. That's part of the magic too, right there.
Absolutely. And the cool thing about especially zone 2 is that mitochondrial efficiency, that metabolic flexibility, right? So really cool stuff. So the third category in terms of the exercise, type of exercise, we've got strength training, right? So this is going to be building muscle. This is where we talk about prioritizing protein. This is going to boost your mitochondrial function by just directly absorbing glucose into your cells and becoming more efficient at processing energy and lowering insulin resistance by tapping into long-term fat stores. So you've got two different things here happening with strength training. You're going to be increasing your body's ability to burn energy through muscle growth, through direct mitochondrial function and absorbing glucose, as well as you're going to, on the back end, lower the insulin resistance component to weight loss, as well as then that allows your body to tap into longer term fat stores, and it makes it more efficient, right? So strength training, 2 hours total a week, 60 minutes of zone 2 a week, couple of half-hour walks or 20 minutes a walk after a meal. Now you're starting to see a fitness plan come together that isn't the Biggest Loser type, no pain, no gain, hours and hours and hours and hours in the gym, just slogging your way through it. Like now we're starting to see, 20 minutes here, a total of 60 minutes of zone 2 a week, right? A total of 2 hours of strength training a week where we're going to see these effects on these metabolic markers.
Yeah, and we covered a really cool research article earlier in the year that was talking about breaking up your activity throughout the workday. And what they did was just a couple of minutes of an air squat or like a wall squat, where just a couple of minutes of that interspersed throughout the day was hitting these like amazing pathways in a very beneficial way, but in one that's easy to go, no, that doesn't seem like enough. Like it seems like I would need to do more than that, but you really don't. It's just these strategic, these strategic intentional points where you go, okay, let me set a timer. I can set a timer every hour or every hour and a half throughout the day. Just get up. 2 minutes. Yeah. Do you look a little silly in your office? Sure, maybe. But at the same time, you're getting very, very different results from everybody else too.
So the first three we've talked about, post-meal walks, right? Lowers glucose and insulin levels, 20 to 30 minutes, right? Incredible. Or including 2-minute walks every 20 minutes. You can break it up into smaller bite-sized pieces, right? Like you just said, zone 2 cardio, right? Glucose uptake, 60 minutes. Glucose uptake by 67 to 97%. Strength training, 1 to 2 hours a week. Increased glucose absorption, reduces insulin resistance. Beneficial metabolic proteins are formed to build muscle. Improves insulin sensitivity. Boosts that mitochondrial function. Category 4, HIIT, high intensity interval training, which alternates intense exercise with rest. What I'm not talking about here is a 45-minute boot camp workout that truly isn't high intensity training. That really probably puts you in the zone 2 category the majority of the time. We're talking about sprints.
It just feels like torture.
It does. We're talking about getting a good growth hormone spike with keeping your cortisol low. And what HIIT truly does, Tabata type workouts, sprint type workouts, it improves the waist circumference and the blood pressure markers, specifically with this type of exercise. So Dr. Molly Sims was on Huberman a while back, and she blasts the Orange Theory type workouts because they're marketing to the individual, specifically women that don't need that type of workout. They need this other stuff, right? So my wife, we have this conversation often. It's like, well, like, what's the strategy? What's the long-term benefit of these types of workouts, right? So HIIT done correctly 2 to 3 times a week in short little bits of time allows you to get a massive benefit in terms of the metabolic health markers, but it also makes your workout strategy more efficient because you're not stuck in these long type slogging type workouts. Now, if it's working for you and you're listening, what the hell does this guy know? What does Dr. Molly Sims know? If it's working for you and you're seeing the scale change and the body composition change, however, you're also seeing quality sleep, quality mood, quality relationships, quality of life along with it, and you're not just chronically fatigued fighting the battle, right? Then that's great. It's working for you. Don't stop doing what's working. But if you're not seeing all of those things, then we need to really look at this category of workouts and really start to hone in on what's going to be a sustainable solution for you.
What I really like about the understanding for using HIIT is just the fact that those short bursts of the high intensity, interspersed with your recovery periods, is where the magic happens, because your body is forced to use all of the sugar so quickly during those anaerobic conditions. And that's where the magic really happens, because blood sugar continues to come down and be utilized. Your body has to figure out very quickly the most efficient biochemical pathways to use up all that blood sugar. And that's where levels and layers of insulin resistance can start to decrease and be peeled back in this really interesting way. Now, the counterintuitive part is that if you're wearing a CGM or you're measuring blood sugar or ketones, you might see your blood sugar actually temporarily rise during exercise bouts like that, because your body has such an immediate but intense short-term need for glucose. And so that's completely normal to see during this process. But that's where some of the cool physiology takes place, because a lot of times during, like when I was talking about zone 2 and then into zone 3 a little bit, that was pretty much a steady decline in blood sugar from a postprandial spike, which is a little different than what I would expect to see in a fasted state. But it's good to know that there's some differences in what you could see in the numbers too.
100%. You're going to get that beneficial growth hormone spike and keeping that cortisol and the stress on the adrenals low too. So you're not going to be stuck in exercise purgatory. So burn the short-term energy, get through the glycogen stores, and then ultimately set yourself up for long-term fat storage or visceral fat burning, which is what we want, which leads into the fifth category is fasted exercise. So what does this do in terms of flipping the metabolic switches or directly related to the metabolic markers? Well, simply stated, this is working out before you eat. Now, my wife and I are complete opposites on this. I don't and never have wanted to eat and then work out. She needs a little something before she works out. She sometimes has a whole meal before she works out. It works for her. She's incredibly healthy. All of her markers are great. She has 0 visceral fat. We do DEXA scans twice a year, and it's working. She doesn't have metabolic syndrome. I did. I'm still fighting it. I've still got visceral fat, right? So for me, what happens when you work out before you eat, you can boost glucose uptake. You can improve HDL cholesterol. You can increase your insulin sensitivity. And the benefits for the metabolic markers go well beyond that workout time. So if you look at the net effect in terms of fed versus fasted workouts, the net effect over 24 hours in terms of fat loss is the same. But the effect for long-term metabolic improvements slightly favors the fasted exercise, which is something I inherently knew before I knew all this stuff. That's just what I felt better doing. Yeah.
And the cool thing there is that, blood sugar is not elevated from a meal. So then it's already kind of at that baseline level. And then your body gets to figure out, okay, where's the fuel going to come from? How quickly do I need to allocate those resources from the skeletal muscle and from the liver? And then that increases the biochemical efficiency as well. So you get a benefit there that I think is what it's actually nudging it to favor the fasted workout. But what I really like there is a fasted workout is also a mindset builder too. It's mentally different versus a fed workout. And I never enjoy a quick a quick time period between my meal and my workout. So it would always tend to be a couple of hours later anyway. But I would give the edge to the fasted workout because of, a couple of those little factors that I think are really important. But I'm going to put a caveat, which would be coming out of that workout, not going straight into breaking a fast would be the flip side of that coin to kind of watch out for, because that ravenous hunger could really hit you, especially after an intense workout. It could be mounting, like a mounting level of hunger. So going to the low caloric density foods to kind of break that fast, maybe some crunchy raw vegetables, maybe like starting with a larger salad than normal, rather than going into the more calorically dense, and definitely not, going out or going to a restaurant right afterwards, unless I was just very, very extra careful with my food choices, because that could be a slippery slope and a whole lot more, calories and insulin and blood sugar spike than what I was meaning to get in after that.
And the biggest thing with this for me is it's hydration. So if I've hydrated and salted properly before and or after the workout, depending on how much I sweat, I just feel a heck of a lot better, and that hunger doesn't come. Now,
good point.
For me, based on my circadian biology and my HPA axis and some other testing I've done, and my sleep air quotes chronotype, like I do not benefit from morning workouts at all. Never have, always tank. Before a clinic, before I used to go see 150 patients on a Monday, I would get up, go to CrossFit, shower, and then I would literally nap in my car before I went to the clinic.
Oh, wow.
Right. And then after
it just zapped you.
It would just zap me. So there's also a timing component to this. And by the way, just like fasting, all of these different decision makings and the type of fast and the length of fast and the benefits of the fasting, all of that is the same stuff. So this fasting and fitness conversation, it's literally similar like decision making to figure out. It's a similar decision tree and mindset shift to kind of figure out what works for you. When does it work best? How do you feel? And ultimately, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. If it's working, great. Right. But if you notice that it's not working, these are some of the things that you can do. These 5 different workouts for physiological benefits combined with your consistent fasting efforts. That is going to absolutely set you up for massive success in 2025. So Tommy, final thoughts as we wrap up today's conversation.
Yeah, final thoughts would be extending that decision tree, that decision-making process into your fasting timing and fasting schedule as well. So I'm going to give a shout out to the Blueprint to Fasting for Fat Loss. Download that. And when you're thinking about your exercise timing and how you're going to work in these different exercise levers and pull these different levers for health optimization, put them together with your plan for your consistent fasting too, because what you do this week as far as your fasting, when you're going to end your fast, let's say you're doing an OMAD and you're consistently doing OMAD dinner. Well, OMAD dinner may not be best for you depending on what your exercise timing is going to look like, or when you can actually consistently work that in. Maybe an earlier dinner or a late lunch might work a little bit better depending on how you feel, what type of exercise you're currently focused on, and how your hunger cues are doing. So there's a few things that you want to be mindful of and take a look at how you're feeling during those workouts. What's your performance like? What's the scale doing? And then overall, Scott, like you mentioned a few different things to look out for your mood and your libido and your relationships and your brain fog and all of these other kinds of things as positive or negative reinforcement for what you're doing, not just what's happening on the scale, right?
Yep, absolutely. So here's my wrap up for today. And here's my suggestions of what I actually do on a week-to-week basis.
Okay.
So walking 30 to 45 minutes, 3 to 4 times a week. I don't get my daily walks in, but I do walk multiple days a week. And I do some form of body weight strength exercise. So I do a lot of kettlebells. I do a lot of body weight exercises. That's for me about 3 times a week as well. And then I hate it, but I do calisthenics and I do some form of mobility, stretching, foam rolling, spinal molding. I have an old back injury, right? So I do some form of, this could be bar, this could be Pilates, this could be yoga, right? But that's it for me. And when I'm in a Peloton challenge, right? So I will replace because we do these 7 or 8 week challenges, I'll replace the walking or the strength training, 1 or 2 of those each, with the Peloton workouts. So I'm doing something every day, but it's not like I'm going to the gym and I'm just 60-minute 5 a.m. workout every single day, or 5 out of 7 days a week, right? So zone 2 is great for recovery. So you just got to kind of play. That's where I'm at right now. At the beginning of 2024, I was doing some more longevity metrics and working on grip strength and dead hangs and farmer carries, right? Some of the longevity metrics that came out of Peter Attia's research in his book Outlive, right? So it's going to change, but you got to want to do the thing. Like, you got to actually somewhat enjoy it or look forward to it, or else you're just never going to do it. Just like fasting. I'm going to do a 72-hour fast, but I hate 72-hour fast. Great. So you're not going to do it. So why say you're going to do it? Find a shorter fast that you can commit to and do that instead. And then that's when we see the sustainable change and transformation take place. What are we going to say?
Same thing with exercise.
Yes.
It would be better to find 1 or 2 or 3 things that you really can look forward to and do on a consistent basis, because you're much more likely to actually check those boxes. So and getting into a new physical activity, a new sport or a new hobby that kind of moves you in a different way, would be much better to do that than to try to like swim upstream into like a boot camp situation that you kind of hate and may not be best for your physiology anyway, but more importantly, that you're not enjoying it at all. Like, find some things that you enjoy, and you can always increase the intensity of those things, or the duration, or both, or how frequently you do those things and you pull those levers,
100%. So absolutely love this fasting and fitness conversation, building on what we went through in December. Happy New Year to each and every one of you. Again, 2025 is going to be absolutely incredible. Head to the show notes, click the link, download the blueprint to fasting for fat loss. Take 1 or 2 things out of this conversation, put them into action today or tomorrow. Like, do it quick. That's how you make massive and gain massive momentum. We can ditch the New Year's resolutions. We can do this and have fun doing it. And we have a challenge coming up here on the 29th at the end of the month. So head to the show notes, click the link for more information and frequently asked questions on that as well. We are here. We are excited. 21st podcast episode of 2025 in the books. Tommy, thank you as always for the conversation, sir. And we will talk soon.
Thank you. Bye.
So, you've heard today's episode, and you may be wondering, where do I start? Head on over to thefastingforlife.com and sign up for our newsletter, where you'll receive fasting tips and strategies to maximize results and fit fasting into your day-to-day life.
While you're there, download your free Fast Start guide to get started today. Don't forget to subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure to leave us a 5-star review, and we'll be back next week with another episode of Fasting for Life.